Mr. S. Belram, guest speaker of today's webinar, Mr. S. Sunil Kumar, Honorable Secretary TMA, Mr. K. S. Dilip Kumar, MC Member TMA, and members of TMA. Good evening to all. It gives me great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to this seminar on Medtech Industry Opportunities and Challenges on behalf of the Trivandrum Management Association. We are privileged that we have with us Mr. S. Belram, founder CEO of the TIMED, a non-profit organization promoted by Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology for supporting entrepreneurs and startups developing innovative medical technologies. He is senior scientist at Biomedical Technology Wing of Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology, with professional experience of over 25 years in research and development and commercialization of medical devices. He presented papers at WHO Global Conference on Medical Devices in 2013 at Geneva. He will enlighten us about how TIMED nurtures startups for medical devices in early stages, provides innovation grants and seed investment. Now, let me welcome our dynamic president, Mr. Rajesh Jha, to this webinar. I now welcome Mr. S. Balaram, guest speaker of today's topic, who is a renowned expert in this area of startups for medical devices. I also welcome our very active secretary, Mr. S. Sunil Kumar, and MC member, Mr. K. S. Dilip Kumar. I welcome one and all who are attending this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sunil, can I pitch in now?
Please.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Jayachandran. As the chairman of evening lecture program, you have been doing a very good job, and I am really, really thankful to you, Sunil. With Mr. S. Balram, I see that today's evening program will be very, very enlightening. An engineer by profession and working in the medical field. This is the kind of collaboration that we need because now society is multidimensional and a lot of solutions require involvement of people from different disciplines. So I am really very enthused to hear about Mr. Balram's background, and he is the founder of TIMED, a special purpose vehicle that is promoting innovation, research, and development in the field of biomedical devices is very, very heartening for me. And Trivandrum, I feel, is best positioned to cater to this world of biomedical devices. And also, I understand that Trivandrum has the distinction of being the biggest blood bag manufacturer in the world. So medical devices manufacturing will be an expense that the city will provide. And in that context, I think we are very keen to listen to you. Over to you, Mr. Balram.
Before Mr. Balram taking over, I would give a brief introduction about Mr. Balram. Mr. Balram, as our president said, Mr. Balram is having an impressive CV. Engineer working in the field of biomedical, which is very rare and which is very unique. And as President earlier telling, in spite Trivandrum being a front runner in biomedical equipments or biomedical associated industry with the Terumo Penpol, we had a lead. But unfortunately, over the years, we couldn't catch up with other cities in manufacturing of medical devices or medical equipments. Though we are planning, government is planning a life science park for quite some time, but we are yet to evolve with a concrete park in the life science park. Hopefully, it will come over a period of time in the coming days. So, in that context, we are very much eager to listen to Mr. Balram Shakaran in this evening. To give the participants a brief overview of Mr. Balram Shankaran. As I was earlier saying, he is having an impressive CV. He is the founder CEO of TIMED, a not-for-profit organization for supporting entrepreneurs and supporting and entrepreneurs and startups developing initiatives in medical technologies. TIMED is promoted by Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology, which is an institute of national importance under Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. TIMED mentors, his organization mentors and nurtures early stage startups developing medical products and also provides innovation grants and seed investments in the startups. He is also a senior scientist at Biomedical Technology Wing of Sri Chitra Institute. He has over 25 years of experience at Sri Chitra Institute in research and development and commercialization of medical devices. He did his bachelor's and master's in engineering from College of Engineering, Trivandrum. He has been a visiting research scholar at the University of Tsukuba, Japan, and visiting fellow at National Institute of Health, USA. He was invited to speak at the WHO Global Conferences on Medical Devices in 2013 at Geneva. He is a member of IMA and TMA since 1995. He will share his experiences in the medical technology sector today. Welcome, Mr. Balram Shankaran. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Dear President, Secretary, Chair, fellow members and guests. I'm really delighted, and this comes from my heart because I have been a member of IMA and TMA for more than 2 decades. But I must confess that I have been a dormant member, and this provides, I think this provides me an opportunity to reconnect to all of you. And I look forward to engaging more with the activities of TMA. Even though we are passing through very difficult times, I think these are some of the benefits that we get in such challenging times. Now, when I was asked to speak on a topic, I could not think of anything better than talking about medical technologies for several reasons. First and foremost being today we are fighting a raging pandemic, and the only defense that we have with us is the strength of medical technologies. Also, the medical device industry is a sunrise industry in the country. Much needed, much needs to be done. And there's ample opportunities of growth. So for these reasons, I thought this subject is very appropriate and timely. And of course, with my association to this field, that is probably the best I can do. I also want to confess that I really did not expect such a large turnout today, being a Saturday evening. I guess because of the lockdown, all of you had no other options. Anyway, I have kept this presentation very brief, and it will only give you a flavor of what I want to convey. And hopefully, going forward, we will have opportunities to get into more serious engagements. So with this, I would like to open up my PowerPoint. It's a small presentation. So let me try sharing that screen. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yes.
Yes, we can see. We can see the presentation.
Okay. So I see a lot of interest in the audience today, and I hope I will live up to your expectations. But let me give it a try. Okay. So this term, Medtech Industry. So what is it? So I just want to introduce this word medical devices. So medtech industry or medical device industry is the industry which produces, which innovates, which develops medical devices. Now, in the modern healthcare system, we are accustomed to certain products. First and foremost being the drugs or the medicines, what comes under the category of pharmaceuticals. Then, of course, there is another segment called vaccines, which has become suddenly very, very important. And of course, on the top of everybody's mind. So for the modern healthcare, while we depend upon medicines and vaccines, there is another sector which is equally, if not more important, consisting of a large number of products, but about which people do not know much. As far as the drugs or the pharma industry is concerned, I think public awareness is very high. Almost as consumers, we know who makes these medicines, we know their brand names, it's easily available. And as a country also, India is one of the largest producers of pharma products. And our medicines are the lowest priced in the world. And it has a significant presence. In fact, there is a department of pharmaceuticals also under the Ministry of Chemicals. So it has a good presence. A lot of people are engaged. We have some of the best top pharma producers. However, like I said, medical device is something which is not quite in the minds of people. Now, thanks to COVID, last year, if you remember, around March or April, one of the most sought after product was a ventilator. You know, for the first time, everybody in the country wanted to know what is a ventilator, from where does it come from, who makes it, why there is a shortage, what are the issues around ventilators. So everybody was brainstorming on that. And suddenly we realized that there's a huge shortage of ventilators in the country, and the whole country is very much ill equipped to cater to the needs of a product like a life-saving product like a ventilator. And then there were a lot of exercises being done to boost up the production of ventilators. If you look at the second wave, a similar story has occurred, but the ventilator has been replaced by the oxygen concentrator. So this time around, people have been talking about the oxygen concentrator. And again, the questions, we find that there is a huge shortage of these devices, and then everybody wants to make it. So these ventilators, oxygen concentrators, these are typical examples of what we broadly call as medical devices. And even though we are quite ignorant about it, the fact is that we live in a world which is full of medical devices. There are actually over 100,000 products which come under the broad category of medical devices. To put it in simple terms, anything that you see in a modern healthcare system, like a hospital, which is not a medicine or which is not a vaccine, comes under the category of medical devices. So it is a category which consists of a large number of products, heterogeneous products. They're all very diverse. Some of them are very simple device, something very simple to extremely complex products. Some may be disposable, or some are reused. Some are just in temporary contact, they are external to the body, and some are invasive, they go inside the body. Some are actually permanent replacements to the human parts. Some of these products would be very, very low cost, and some would be extremely expensive. And as far as the risk is concerned, some of these products pose a low risk, whereas some of these are extremely high risk products and directly connected to life. And they are used for a number of purposes for prevention or diagnosis or treatment or surgery and so on and so forth. So the point I'm trying to make is that there is a huge lot of products which are coming under the category of medical devices, about which people at large know less, but they interact with us in a number of ways. And this is just an illustration, like some of those first aid bandages to more complex electronic devices like a CAT scan, to some of the implants which are actually spare parts for the human body, like replacing your hip or replacing your lenses, so on and so forth. So another aspect which probably we are not aware of is that the medical technology industry is actually a very thriving industry globally. And it is generally a recession-free industry for the obvious reason. And we have seen that whenever the world goes through a lot of economic cycles, one industry or the other gets impacted. But this is an industry which is always growing, and a demand for which is always increasing. In terms of numbers, it's like a 450 billion market in year 2020, and projected to go to around 600 billion in 2023. And USA is the largest producer and consumer of these products. And some of the best known companies in the world include names like Medtronic or Johnson & Johnson, Philips, GE, about which most of us are familiar. Now, what does the Indian medical device industry look like? If you look at the market size, it's quite less compared to the US. It may be maybe about 2 or to 5% of the US market, but still significant in terms of absolute numbers. But the interesting thing is that the estimate is that it is going to see a 5-fold increase in the next couple of years. So the Indian, as we know, the Indian healthcare system is exploding. A lot of initiatives and access to healthcare is increasing in the country. And all the obvious reasons we know, there's a huge population, there's an aging population, and all those reasons have reflected in a huge increase for these products. And even now, India is among the top 20 markets for the medical devices worldwide, and the 4th largest market in Asia. Now, what is interesting is that about 75 to 80% of this demand or these requirements for these products, especially the high technology medical products, we have to depend on imports. So that's something very important to note. And how is the Indian medical device sector? Mainly, there are about 700 to 800 small and mid-sized companies, domestic companies, making either low technology disposable products or medical electronic products, but none of them making really very high technology products. And the high technology products are catered to by a few multinationals who have either subsidiaries or their own presence in the country. Now, this last point is also very interesting, because while at one point we are importing 75 to 80%, we are also exporting a large number of medical devices. So what it means is that there are a good number of domestic manufacturers who are not catering to the Indian market, but who are exclusively focusing on exports. And that is also quite lucrative, and that's also something to appreciate. Just to highlight the capability of the Indian domestic manufacturers, like when the COVID came last year, all of a sudden, when the whole industry was never prepared, like the entire healthcare system has been focusing on lifestyle diseases, chronic diseases like diabetes, cancer, and heart diseases prior to March 2020 in India. And we never thought that there will be something like infectious diseases spreading rapidly. So all the focus was on a different set of products. But when the COVID came all of a sudden, the Indian domestic companies came up to that challenge, and somehow they rushed to get into the PPE kit manufacturing. And today they have come up with a huge capacity. So we are one of the largest manufacturers. So this point I just put to highlight the kind of capability that exists in the domestic manufacturers. And this is how the major manufacturing clusters in India are located, like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. These are the places where most of the manufacturers are located. And also there are certain identities. For example, Gujarat has a lot of disposables, and there are a number of high-tech companies manufacturing the coronary stents, the stents that you use in after angioplasty. So there are a number of companies, they're all concentrated at Surat. Whereas in Karnataka, it would be medical electronics. Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, again, it would be medical electronics. And in Haryana, it would be again some disposables, needles. And interesting to note that when this massive vaccination drive came due to this COVID, a lot of other things also became necessary. For example, the needles. So you cannot, even if you have vaccines, if you don't have the needles and the syringes, it's not possible to vaccinate. So one of the biggest manufacturing companies is it's called HMD Medical. It is located in Haryana, and then they have really ramped up because you need billions of these syringes. So they are really working overnight to ramp up the production. So overall, in India, we have seen a lot of waves, like there was the IT revolution, then there was the biotech revolution. Of course, there was a pharma revolution. But today, the Medtech is going to be the next sunshine. This is where the opportunity lies. And the government of India is also taking note of that, and several initiatives have been taken. For example, there's a production linked incentive scheme for incentivizing investments in new projects. Then medical device parks is coming up in a big way. Most of these state governments are competing with each other to set up medical device parks and to attract manufacturers, both domestic and foreign. And these device parks come with a lot of advantages because there will be common infrastructure and a lot of facilities which will reduce the cost of production. One of the important aspects for a medical product is something called as the medical device regulation, which means you need some approvals before you can market or sell your product. It's something like the pharma sector requiring the drugs controller approval. Similarly, the medical products requires approval from a regulatory body. And in the country, in India, the drugs controller is actually entrusted with this task. In the last or earlier, there was no clarity on how these products will be regulated, but today that is definitely being revamped, and it will also be harmonized to the global norms. And most importantly, a medical devices promotion council is also being formed because we have seen that such councils, such bodies are very effective. Like there are apparel promotion parks councils, or the gem export councils. So these handicrafts promotion councils, so they really help in promoting local manufacturing. So all these things are happening currently, and that is that's why I keep saying that this is the opportune time. And if we manufacture in India, it's our experience that the products would be at least 30% less or cheaper than making in a developed country, or making it available from after manufacturing in a developed country. So there is huge export potential also. So there is a great cost and advantage of doing research and development in India, as well as manufacturing in India. Of course, now all that was the good part of the story, but any opportunity comes with challenges, and in this sector it's no different, and the challenges are really quite difficult, but I won't say it is not insurmountable. So it is possible that we could work around these challenges. The first and foremost being the nature of these products poses a lot of technological challenges, which means most of these products require interdisciplinary technologies. They need the contribution from different sciences and engineering. So what basically it means is that to develop a good medical device, you need a good research and development. It's possible that you may be able to make some low risk disposable products which could be based on existing products, but to make a really innovative product, to make a really product which is worth associating with, I think investment in R&D is quite necessary. And of course, there are the issue of intellectual property rights, because most of the innovation is protected fiercely by the multinationals. So any new player will have to work around this intellectual property and find its own innovation and its own methods and processes to overcome the challenge. Again, medical products require extensive testing and validation and adherence to standards. There are product standards. Very important, because medical products, medical devices, they interact with the human body, like I said before, and there is always a chance that it can be hazardous, or it could pose a risk to the user. So it's very important to ensure that the risks are minimal, and the risk balance is actually in the benefit of risk benefit is in the ways towards more benefit. So it's very important to do extensive testing. You may have to do clinical trials. Then, of course, like I said, regulatory compliance to get approvals from the regulator. Coming to manufacturing, again, these products have their own set of requirements. They have to be manufactured under what is called the good manufacturing practices. They have to be made in very clean environment, depending upon the type of product. Some of them may require very sterile environment. So the plants have to be, or the factories have to be designed to comply with the good manufacturing practices. Availability of raw materials, the vendors, all these are at present challenging in the country, and they have to be addressed. Competition is also quite intense, and it leads to price war. So that is something again, because the consumer, which is the hospital or the patient, is always looking at a product which is affordable. So there is always a price barrier, and there is also a price caps in some of the essential medical devices imposed by the government. So all these are challenges, and in spite of all this, if you really do come up with a product also, it has a very short life cycle and has a risk of getting obsolete quite soon. So you have to keep innovating. So these are some of the general challenges as far as a medical product is concerned. Like I said, this is a typical clean room. Now, after all that, I think what is of interest to most of you would be like, how does it matter in the Kerala context? So if you look at the medical device manufacturing, it is quite suited for small and medium scale, which means you need less space. Most of the products are have low weight. They can be manufactured on multi-storied factories. So these are something ideally suited for a state like Kerala, where we don't have large areas for setting up factories. And medtech products are also non-polluting and have clean operations. So again, quite suited to the green environments of Kerala. And to manufacture these products, it's preferable that we have manpower who have good personal hygiene and who are able to adopt to good quality standards. Again, that's something on which Kerala would score. And presence of research and development institutions, which will help the industries nearby, is also something quite needed and something which is available in Kerala. So these are all the pluses as far as the Kerala is concerned. And we also have some really good Kerala-based companies. Some of these well-known, like Dentcare or Agape Diagnostics, all these are leaders in their own field and doing very well in Kerala. Of course, coming to Trivandrum, all of us can be proud that we are a hub of medical devices. Like all of you know, these are companies which need no introduction to any one of you. Terimop and Paul, which started in a very small way, like a startup, what we call today, has grown to become a global player, supplying very high quality blood bag to the entire world. HLL Life Care Limited, earlier it used to be the Hindustan Latex, producing the largest number of condoms in the country, which was the need at one point of time. And today, again, as a Government of India enterprise, this is probably the one and only one PSU which is taking care of all the healthcare requirements of the country. And we have TTK Healthcare, again based in Trivandrum, which manufactures the Chitra TTK heart valve. So now I switch gears and I'll just talk about something with which I am more personally associated, like my institution, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology, Trivandrum. Probably some of you would not know that it is not just a hospital which is the institute. there is a very impressive biomedical campus located at Pujapara, where we have research and development and innovation labs, and we are working on developing indigenous medical technologies. And our credo is to bring innovation to life, and we strive to bring innovations from lab all the way to the market by actively working with companies and industries by transferring the technology to them and supporting them. So I'm very proud that in 2019, the Government of India recognized, and the institute was awarded the intellectual property rights for being the top academic research institution in the country in this activity. And of course, we also have something what we call an accredited world-class testing services, which supports the medical device industry. Like I said before, most of these products, if you want to make it to the market, you need to test it rigorously. And this kind of service is not available. It's very rarely available. And we have this facility which is accredited to world international standards. And this is, of course, some of the success stories about which most of you would know. Still, I would like to mention it once again for those who are new. And before doing that, I would like to recollect and remember at this point of time the contribution of Padma Vibhushan, Professor M.S. Valyathan, who actually had this vision of setting up the biomedical technology wing in a medical institution and trying to converge engineering with medicine. So it was his vision which actually led to all these kind of activities. And I think we are always grateful to him for that. So as a heart surgeon, he wanted an affordable valve which is designed for India, which is made for India, and not depend upon imported ones. So that was the challenge he took up first, and this was the first product which was commercialized and successfully transferred to TTK Healthcare. It's a great success story because more than 150,000 patients have been using this valve. There has been no major failures, and it is the most affordable valve in the world, and the quality standards meets any of the international requirements. Again, this is a story about which I don't have to tell anything. Mr. Balagopal, I think he's a member of TMA, and the story of Peninsula Polymers, how it took a lab level technology from, again, the Sri Chitra Institute in the 1980s, and then went up all the way to create a world-class product and a manufacturing facility, and which was sold to Terumo, a multinational giant. So these are all well known. So again, I'm just telling it to reinforce the point that it is possible, and we have, and we can be truly proud that such things do happen. So the blood bag technology which Terumo Penpal makes is actually also transferred to HLL Lifecare. So HLL Lifecare, the public sector company, has also taken the technology for blood bags from the institute, and they are also doing very well and supplying to the world. So HLL also it's interested in the contraceptives area, so they came up this idea of developing a hormone releasing IUD. Again, this is a product which was made by just 1 or 2 companies in the whole world, and then when they approached us, we worked with them to develop this product and launch it. So we are very proud that world-class project, which really impacts the life of women in the country, has been commercialized. So those were all old stories, and people keep asking us what is happening now. So I just want to reassure you that those were the well-known stories, but every year the institute continues to work with industry and come up with new products and technologies. And even though it may not be well known to many of you. So this is just the recent news. In the interest of time, I'm just because we have worked with a lot of industries. This is a company in China Orthotics in Punjab. It is one of India's actually the biggest orthopedic manufacturer in the country. So we work with them. This is again this year, January 2021, a very challenging product. It's also a stent which is used like a implant in the brain. Nobody makes in India, a very handful of companies in the world, a very expensive product, very high technology. So we are working with Biorad Medicines to commercialize this. So just to give a flavor, we have ties with a lot of companies across the country. It's not just in Trivandrum. And for COVID last year, we very quickly came up with this emergency breathing assist device, a frugal version of a ventilator, which was licensed to Wipro, and Wipro has commercialized this, and this is actually launched. And this is the latest product, as latest as May 2021. Just this month, we have licensed novel RT-PCR testing kit for COVID-19. We know that a lot of COVID kits are available. Most of them are imported. As far as the country is concerned, only about 3 kits are indigenously made. Now, this is a novel kit because it is very relevant for the second wave, where it has some genes which can actually identify the new strains of the virus. So it was just developed in April. It got the ICMR approval at the end of April, and in the beginning of May, we tied up with 2 good biotech companies, Huvel Life Sciences and Merrill Diagnostics. Merrill Diagnostics is one of India's biggest diagnostic manufacturers. So that was about Sri Chitra. So we also went one step further, and in 2015, we launched an organization called TimeIt to help startups. And I'm very proud that we are supporting a number of them. These are some of the logos. They make medical devices, so we give them mentorship. We also give them initially some grants to try out their ideas, and also some seed investment, because after all said and done, even if you have a good idea, an innovator struggles to find that first fund. That's the biggest risk. So it's even though we talk a lot about VCs, angel investments, and we know that it's very difficult to get that. So we take that risk, and we come in initially and support good projects. And very proud that one of the startups has actually launched a product, a very innovative project. This was last October, it was launched. So I'm just winding up so that we have some time for Q&A. Summarize, reinforcing that this is a very critical industry, and this is the right time to develop India as a manufacturing hub. And it's also important because these medical products have to be made in India, because it has to be designed for India and our population. There's a lot of difference between using an imported product and an Indian product. And definitely the key to success would be a good partnership between research institutions and industry. And we look forward to Make in Kerala, Make in India. So that was a very rush through presentation. I hope it was of some interest or relevance to all of you. And I'm open to any questions.
Certainly, it is a very concise presentation. We were able to get a overview of the activities. At least for me, it was a new information that such a very pioneer work has been being undertaken in the small city of Trivandrum. Many people, even those who are residing in the city, may not be aware of these developments which are happening in the city. So it is really a new information to some of us, at least some of us in this group, maybe most of us.
I'm
So
sure.
now the
Most of us.
forum,
Most of us.
So now the forum is for questions. Participants can raise their questions. We have some more time for few questions, taking few questions.
Balram, what is the kind of initiative you are taking for the development of the Life Science Park in Thonakkal?
Okay, so the Life Science Park is being undertaken by the KSIDC.
I know that.
And in that, we are working with them to have a specific medical device park.
You have identified some promoters, investors.
Not really. The thinking was that institute will be a knowledge partner, and it is, I think, a not-for-profit company where the money will be invested by KSIDC, and they will have the mandate of raising the investments. We are the knowledge partners.
You will be providing some pilot plans there.
Yes, yes.
Hi, Balram. Setu here.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Okay, you're not developing anything for oxygen generation or separation?
I think that has been already explained by him.
Some simple device for oxygen?
No, basically, what is a simple is basically what we call as an oxygen concentrator. There is nothing much technology. It's an open source technology. The main challenge is sourcing of two key components. One is a compressor and another is a chemical, zeolite. Now, when everybody wanted to make oxygen concentrators, everybody is rushing towards the same vendors. So there's a block there.
Scope.
Yeah. So last I heard was the Air India was trying to airlift some of these chemicals from some foreign country because that zeolite is not made in India.
Are you doing any research on the development of production of the development of technology for zeolite?
Not really, not really. Because it's a passing thing. No? Tomorrow it may not be relevant. Like I said, last year everybody wanted to develop ventilators. Right from college students to big industries, Maruti to public sector, everybody was into it. But today, all those initiatives have subsided. Only the real good ones are now
Still in the
yeah.
For some of the, you yourself are giving space and then encouraging, isn't it? In your own place?
Yes, yes.
That could be a good information for all the members.
Yeah, Mr. Balram.
Yes, sir.
For coming, say, 3 to 5 years, what kind of devices that, if it is it is related to IPR, then you can skip this question. But otherwise, what kind of devices that you think hold interest for TimeAid and Sri Chitra? What kind of devices are you looking at or you are working at?
Well, before this COVID came, the way to go about is look at the disease burden. So what are the major diseases, and then what are the unmet needs? So so what is the gap? So earlier the unmet need was cancer, and if you look at cancer, it would be like early detection of cancer, affordable treatment modalities, so all those things. Then as far as the institute is concerned, our hospital actually has two major specialties focusing only on the brain and the heart. We have only neuro and cardiac disciplines. So most of our projects center around problems of the brain. If you have an aneurysm, then how do you have products? Then if you have a problem in the heart, what are the devices required? So in the heart, products like the heart valve, that was a mechanical heart valve that we developed. Now world is moving towards tissue valves. So we are also developing tissue valve. Then there is the coronary stents, there is pacemaker, there is a defibrillators. So all these products we have an interest. In the brain, Parkinson's is a major area. So their deep brain stimulator, it's an invasive product. We are developing with Baba Atomic Research Center because there's a very extreme complex electronics involved. We also, many times we also identify an industrial partner as we develop. We don't wait to finish the project. We bring them at an early stage also.
Thank you.
We have some questions in the chat box. One of the question is from Mr. Jamal Rashid. Mr. Jamal Rashid is having a question. What is the predicted advantage for developing Trivandrum as a medical city? What is the advantage of developing Trivandrum as a medical city?
When you say a medical city, I think it comprises a lot of things other than a medical device manufacturing. It also means healthcare facilities like hospitals and things like that. But ideally, Trivandrum is as of now ideally suited for any initiative in the medical device development. We have good research institutions, not only Sri Chitra, we have VSSC. So VSSC developed an oxygen concentrator, and they have made it open source. They are trying to license it. We have Rajiv Gandhi Institute, National Institute of NIST, so many institutions. So for any good medical device or life sciences initiative, this is a ideal place.
One more question. Please. Any questions from the participants? We have one question on the chat box. Mr. Ravindran Nair is having a question. Glad to know that you have developed RT-PCR kits. There has been a lot of controversy on the pricing of RT-PCR testing. Can you throw some light on the production cost of an RT-PCR kit?
Okay, very good question, because today the manufacturers are at a huge pressure. What we understand is they have to sell at something like 40 to 50 rupees per test, per reaction. And it's almost next to impossible to manufacture kits based on imported reagents. Many of the companies rely on imported reagents, and if you use those reagents, it's not possible to meet those price points. So it's certainly there the foreign manufacturers have an advantage because they are able to meet these price points. So for a domestic manufacturer, it is really challenging. But when we license to these two companies, Huvel and Merrill, fortunately for us, they are big players and they have good scientific capability that they are able to make some of these critical reagents in-house. So they are able to make this affordable.
What is the approximate cost?
So the companies would supply at something like 40 to 50 rupees.
There's one more question from there is one.
Mr. Balram, you said that a lot of medical devices are being imported into the country, especially high-tech devices. Any idea what is the quantum of import, and have we done some work on identifying the top 5 imports if we can replicate it here? Does it make sense in the volume sense, whether there's sufficient volume to replicate here and produce here in Trivandrum?
Like I said, some of those things are technologically very challenging. For example, all the high-tech MRIs or the CT scans, such equipments, it would be very, very difficult unless it's something like a national initiative and it is developed on a mission mode. So the government of India actually recognized this, and there was an initiative a couple of years back by making a consortium of like IITs, AIIMS, and manufacturers to bring out an Indian CT, MRI, etc. But they have really not progressed much. Again, actually, maybe a decade back, all these issues were completely neglected. But thanks to some efforts from the domestic manufacturers themselves, so they have some organization now. There is an Association of Indian Medical Device Industry. They have come up together. And from our institute also, we did some exercise. We were asked by the Department of Science and Technology to look into these questions. So we did some brainstorming with them. We had a pan-India discussions. We made a report about 3-4 years back, but it did not move forward. Today, suddenly, this has become a subject of importance, even at the policy level. The Department of Pharmaceuticals is doing a lot of work, and Niti Aayog, and there is also Invest India organization. All of them are putting their heads together. Some of the best people are looking at these issues.
Mr. Balram, you have done a wonderful job from the point of view of the research part, innovation, and the production. But as end user is much more concerned about your maintenance support and hand-holding. Can you say a brief 1 or 2 words about the sort of support we have? Because most of the time, at the end of the day, we decide to buy something or not. I am the former Vice Chancellor of the Kerala Medical University after Mohandas sir. So one of our problem was when you decide to buy, the cost is not an issue. The issue is what sort of support you will get.
Yeah, so maintenance of biomedical equipments in hospitals in India is a very, very interesting story in itself, because so many issues. One I can immediately think of is many government hospitals, a lot of nurses or the staff are so scared that they lock up life-saving equipment in the almara so that they don't lose it, and they get their pensions. There is no deficit stock and things like that. So it's a big issue. Again, a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years back, there was an initiative to create a national system of giving AMCs, annual maintenance contracts. So the idea was that you will have a national organization, and there will be some call centers. You could just call those and get your equipment repaired. But I think that just remains wishful thinking. Nothing has happened much on that.
And why I said this is because suppose in Trivandrum Medical College, the MRI scan is not working or CT scan is not working. The whole lot will blame the doctor or the superintendent. But actually what happens is somebody has to come from Chennai and he has to be given all the perks that is required. And in a government system, there is no provision to do any of this. Whereas in a private sector, they don't mind spending any amount of money because one day loss is so much loss for them. So there is a huge difficulty in this one. I understand Chitra had taken some initiative recent in the last 5 years to do some maintenance, work also. Has it progressed or not? I don't know.
No, we have an in-house biomedical engineering department.
Yeah.
So they coordinate that, and for the major equipments, we have annual maintenance contracts. So
But you don't take from other people.
Pardon?
You don't give it as a service.
No.
For your equipments, yeah.
We don't have capacity for that.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
For the paucity of time, we will have one more question from the chat box. The question is that is SCTIMST doing research on biomaterials? Are you doing research on
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, of course, we have a lot of projects. It is also an area of focus, what we call wound dressings. For a lot of biomaterials are used for wound dressings, wound management. That is again a challenging area, and it's an area where we are trying, finding it difficult to find industries to transfer. So all this time I was giving you a positive or the good things, but in reality we know that things are not so rosy. There are challenges everywhere. To transfer a technology from a lab, it has its own challenges. You will definitely not get ready to make 2-minute Maggie kind of a product. You need to really put in a lot of efforts, work, invest your time and money, and it's only like people like Mr. Balagopal who can do that, and people like him are quite rare. So that is the reality.
Okay. Thank you. We had a wonderful evening with Mr. Balram Shankaran. Now I invite our MC member, Mr. Dilip Kumar, for the vote of thanks.
Hello. Am I
Mr.
audible?
Dilip?
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It is now my duty to propose a vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to thank our guest lecturer and resource person, Mr. S. Balram, Chief Executive Officer, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology, Thiruvananthapuram, for kindly accepting our invitation and enlightening us with his knowledge in the field of medical technology industry. Sir, you have, in a simple terms, educated us about various medical devices, starting from simple medical bandage to high-end devices used for hip transplantation, etc., available in the market, and the various uses of the same, and also the states in which they are manufactured, especially those industries which are in Trivandrum and whole of Kerala. You have beautifully made us understand the various opportunities for sunshine available in the field and the various challenges faced and the ways to overcome the same. Sir, we are all inspired by your words, and especially for new entrepreneurs, it was really a motivating speech. In this context, we are proud of you for all of your achievements and wish you all the best and more achievements in the coming days. I would like to thank the President of TMA, Mr. Rajesh Jaji, for his presidential address, Secretary Mr. Sunil Kumar, who has introduced the speaker in a befitting manner, and for their active participation. I would also like to thank Mr. C.K. Jayachandran, Chairperson, TMA Lecture Program Committee, for spending his time in organizing this webinar session. I also thank all the members of the TMA and all others present here for paying your attention and learning. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the attendants who chose to be live with us and attended the webinar with a great enthusiasm and made it a successful event. I also thank the persons involved in arranging all the technical support for conducting this program successfully. Once again, I thank you all for being with us in this evening. Thank you and good night.
Balram, I want to be in touch with you. I want to be in touch with you later. Something can be done. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very much here.
I know
Reachable anytime.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you.
We are closing the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Balram.
Oh, Sethu sir.
Yeah, yes. Bye.
Very happy to see you.
This is the only way we can see the members.
Yeah. Definitely.
What a situation we have come to.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay then.